for our Jewish Wisdom for Coping with a Pandemic group. And some of you have been here from the beginning, some have been here on and off, some may be joining for the first time, but you all are welcome. We begin every time with a short meditation to just kind of create a little bit of sacred space. So if you're new to meditation, this is just a short guided meditation. So all you need to do is listen, and we'll be done in just a couple of minutes. So please relax and close your eyes. And take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. As we go at our own pace of inhaling and exhaling, if thoughts should pop into your head, just observe them and let them go. Like watching a car move past on the road. Now is not the time for solving problems. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. When you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, friends, here we are. Once again, starting again. This week in the Torah, we are restarted. The other night at Simchat Torah, we re-rolled the scrolls. Some of you, if you may have participated, we opened them up and got to see the entirety of our story. And as I wrote about this week, sometimes when we're beginning again, it can feel like a real setback, like in a game of Chutes and Ladders. And other times, like in Jewish tradition, it can be a time for excitement. It can be like starting, watching your favorite comfort TV show again. It could be an opportunity for a new beginning or for new understanding. The familiarity of the cycle can bring a certain level of comfort. And a Mussar practice is the same way, where we come back to the same soul traits again and again. And each time we come back to them, we come back as a different person. And something that maybe wasn't an issue for us in the last go around today feels a little bit more limiting. Maybe something that was limiting last time, maybe the last 3 or 4 times now, we can sense some level of growth and change having taken place. And we're ready to take on our next challenge. So we'll begin, as we often do, as we always do at these sessions, with a little bit of a conversation starter. So it's a question we're going to look at a little bit later. It's in this week's Torah portion. Where are you? Where are you right now? And do you feel ready for where you are? So pretty open-ended. Who would like to begin? Yeah, Joanne.
Well, I feel like I've seen this movie before, and just like we're reading the Torah, maybe there were things I missed last time around. So something to keep working on. That's how I feel about it, I guess. So I guess I'm...
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, Carol and Bonnie.
Every time I come to this, and this is not the first time at this rodeo for me either. Every time I come to each of these soul traits, it's like I'm coming to them completely new, with completely new eyes. And I know I'm going to learn more things about the soul trait and about myself and how to balance.
Thank you, Carol. Bonnie.
Well, I really love the fact that we're starting this anew. I love Rosh Hashanah. I love the opportunity to pick up that 1,000-pound mirror and look into it and see what last year was like, what things I didn't like the way they went and how I can change them. And I love Simchat Torah because for me, this gives me a chance to really start again. And it just fits, it just fits so wonderfully into the idea in Mussar that we're starting again, even though we've seen these soul traits before. I agree with you, Carol. I think it's really a great learning opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. Anyone else kind of share? Or Marika, you're welcome to type into the chat since I know your audio isn't working. Yes, Janet. Well, I think you need to unmute.
This is a mixed time for me. My brother, who has disabilities and has been quite ill, is getting better. He is moving out. He's going into a senior residence. He's a younger brother, but he's not in as good shape as I am. And it's kind of a time for me and my husband to start over on our own. After my brother's been with us for 5 years in what I joke about our ménage à trois. So this kind of, I feel a little bit guilty having prodded him out the door, but I also recognize that this had to be.
Well, thank you, Janet. Thank you for sharing that. And I listen with an open heart. And it is certainly sounds like a new beginning in several ways. Absolutely. Okay, from Marika, a new beginning after an 8-year engagement in a new state. Sounds like it. Thank you for sharing that, Marika. Anyone else care to share or comment? Yeah, Frank.
It seems to me for each year, this season, even when I'm alert to the month of Elul, where there's opportunities for preparation, that the season comes and goes so quickly that I said, did I catch anything? And so that always kind of leaves me somewhere. But for the first time this year, I know the Hebrew New Year, and I feel really good about that. It's 5782. And in the past, if you would have asked me, I would have been kind of, so maybe that's a good beginning. I want to make it so.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, I love that. I'm going to make it so. And yeah, I've also often had trouble remembering the year. For some reason, this one sort of stuck out to me as well, and it does feel good. You know, it's really embarrassing to be a rabbinical student and not know the Hebrew year, I have to say. So, so I'm glad I have that one. Yes, Stephanie.
So I'm probably most new of anyone here. So I feel like this is a fantastic opportunity for me to kind of look at the coming year, like you always say, Greg, with an open heart, and just maybe create some new experiences out of a lot of difficulties in the past 2 years of this pandemic, and just to find more balance, find more joy and more adventure, and try to make it something to look forward to this year.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, we I love the beginner's mind and the open-heartedness that you're displaying there. That's wonderful. Yes, Linda.
Did I hear you say that Marika is from Maine?
Yes, I think that is what she wrote in the chat.
We just came back from 6 weeks in Maine, and it was a grand experience.
Wonderful. And my stepmother's from Connecticut and had a lot of family in Maine. Krista, were you raising your hand or were you just adjusting your screen? Gotcha.
Just listening and adjusting the camera a little bit.
Gotcha.
But I couldn't pass the opportunity to pop in and see you again for a little bit, Mr. Greg.
Well, nice to
And
see you
thank
too. And I like your haircut too.
Just got it done like yesterday, so I think I got the hair cut off, I lost weight. So it got a little long.
Very nice. All right, well, let's get a little reminder about Mussar practice. This is a real capsule summary where we begin with a recitation phrase or a mantra to kind of frame the day. And at the end of each of our sessions, I will share a suggested recitation phrase. You can write your own, and as we did the last cycle, we'll spend 2 weeks on each of the soul traits. So this week and next week will be on humility. Then we pick an action, sort of one small thing we can do to help move us towards balance. And then best practice is to do some journaling. You know, where was your soul trait tested during the day? What were some of the choice points that came up? And then just good or bad, capture them in the journal. Not everybody journals, but generally when people do, they get a lot out of it. Now, if you remember, if you've been in past sessions or if you've read my book, I share 4 assumptions which kind of help us frame our practice. And this comes from my time in the corporate world when I had to do financial forecasts, and we would set these assumptions. And maybe we agreed with them, maybe we didn't, but they helped us run the business. Like, okay, I'm going to assume that 100 people are going to come in the store every hour, and on average, they're going to spend $10 each. So that's $1,000 an hour, and we're open for 10 hours. So we're going to make $10,000 a day. And then we can use that to make decisions. And each week we're going to take a look at one of these assumptions in more depth. And this week I've bolded the wrong one, because the one I wanted to start with is the idea that there's a divine spark in everyone, which is occluded by our baggage. So I'm going to stop the share here. And I'm just curious, what do people make of this idea? about having a divine spark and having it occluded by our baggage. What questions does that bring up? Objections, thoughts, associations? Shelley, I see you smiling a little bit. You seem to be percolating on this one.
I will speak. I always love to listen because listening gives me direction. So thank you, universe. You know, we all have God within us. We all create our realities, but we also have imprints from our childhood, assumptions as an adult does something. And being a child, we can't discern that they are also going through their own issues. And it's not until we're an adult that we can start picking those natural kind of reflexes and saying, well, I don't want to be like that anymore. I want to actually be at peace with who I am. So it's actually kind of going backwards in time to, you know, those first moments when you felt self-worth or, you know, or worthless, and looking at it from a different perspective, looking at it from their perspective. And, you know, so a lot of us, I think right now are in the process of removing those past imprints. And it's very enlightening to be in that kind of frame and to be effortless, because you're therefore listening to the direction of the universe. So thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. That was beautifully said. And yeah, this idea that we're created in the divine image comes from the Sweet Torah portion. You know, the divine breathed the life into Adam's nostrils. Breath, wind, ruach. This can mean wind. It can mean spirit. And as Shelley said, one way to think about this is some of our not so great childhood experiences or not so great adult experiences, which can add some schmutz and get in the way and make it hard to see our own light or see other people's lights. Wendy, I see you unmuted. Did you want to comment?
Yeah, Shelley's passage of what she said. Yeah, thank you for that, Shelley. It reminds me to remind myself that with those old imprints and things that we couldn't control as children that were good or bad, that I am reminded to be humble that the God within me, the source within me, wanted to be here, and that this creating my reality, that means I have the ability to also uncreate the things or learn from the things as I go along and as I get older. It's quite a gift. It's very humbling. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. And a couple of things you said really resonate sort of with some of the, you know, readings we're going to be looking at later. And if any of you are unsure about the divinity, you know, you can think of it as, you know, that spark of humanity, that piece of common goodness that all people share. All right, so let's take a look in this context at the soul trait of humility. I find it very useful, and this is part of classic Mussar teaching, that you know, we all share these same soul traits, and we have different amounts of each. That was this assumption number 4. And so it can be really helpful to just look at these on a spectrum. And so for something like humility, especially where in the West we get these ideas that humility is about, you know, being meek and self-effacing, but that's not the Jewish definition of humility. It's about occupying our right place in the universe. And if we have too little humility, it can lead to arrogance. And if we have too much humility, we can be really sort of overly self-debasing. And the idea, as Alan Moranis really put it very beautifully, is this phrase, no more than my space, not less than my place. And so this touches upon self-esteem, confidence, stepping up in certain situations and stepping back. When you look at this spectrum, how do you see this applying to yourself and to your own life? and maybe some of where you are now as we are beginning the year again.
Well,
Yes, Joanne.
well, I think what I've learned before and I'm still learning to deal with is that it's kind of like a sliding, for me, it's like kind of a sliding scale. You know, when I realize with my son and certainly with my ex-husband when I was married, I didn't occupy enough space when I needed to.
Mm.
And sometimes as a sisterhood president, I need to occupy a little less than I think I'm supposed to or ought to, because that's my title. Because then if I take up too much space, I don't give other people a chance to express their opinions and be heard. And so I guess that's the balance point for me between too much and too little. Still
Yeah.
need,
Oh, sorry. Was there more you were going to say, Joanne?
still needs work.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
work
still
in progress, and for all of us, and knowing which situation we need to do what. That's a huge part of it. Okay, I see a couple of chats here. So yes, Christo wrote to Alan Marinas and got a nice reply back, and
Very cool.
Marika shared, learning not to be hobbled by humility and occupy more self-confidence. Yeah, absolutely. I hear that, and we're all, I think many of us can resonate with that and support each other in that journey. Carol.
This is a big one for me and one I'm working on, because my big issue is reaching out to other people. Not because I don't care about other people or don't want to, but because I feel like, well, I'm just not important enough to take up time and space in their lives. And that's a problem of too much humility, not taking up my place. So that was my focus for Yom Kippur, and continues to be my focus. Because if I don't do that, then I'm isolating myself, and I'm missing out on a lot of what could be really wonderful, lovely interactions.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, that's very powerful to think about, you know, the connection between humility and isolation, especially now as we're still dealing with the impact of the ongoing pandemic, and we're not nearly as isolated as we used to be, but there's still lots of, you know, cautions and restrictions and things like that. And so spending extra attention on how we might connect is very powerful. Thank you. Yeah, Linda.
Carol, this may piggyback onto what you just said, but it seems to me, coming right out of the high holidays, especially Yom Kippur, when we are required to look within, see where we missed the mark, and vow to get back on board. For some of us, that lingers a bit. And I think that, and now this could be a statement about my lack of certain kinds of education within Judaism, but it seems like we're asked to do more self-reflection, to be more humble, than to, not self-aggrandizement, but to build ourselves up, to present ourselves. Blah, blah.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Karen, I see your hand is up.
I wanted to share that I have heard from some people that taking up more than your share of space can be a result of not being heard, of not being recognized, of not being validated. And once these people have felt some type of validation, they were able to give more space and place to others, leaving more time for self-reflection.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, Rabbi Shlomo Wolbe wrote that, when you don't take another person seriously, when you don't recognize them, it's like you've sort of stolen from them. That, seeing another human being is really one of the biggest tasks that we can do. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Yeah.
Yes, Wendy.
I was going to ask a question along that line with what you both just said. I feel like sometimes, and it is a question, is it we are accidentally taking away that person's feeling of purpose in that moment? It is a question, and that's, it's just something to ponder. I feel I'm pondering it right now.
Yeah, I think Rabbi Ira Stone, he teaches that, the purpose of Mussar is learning to bear the burden of the other person, and, learning to listen to them, to be present with them, to see them who they really are. And I think part of that's a good segue to this next reading, because if we don't see ourselves for who we really are, can we see another person for who they really are? So with that, let's take a peek. So may I have a volunteer to unmute and read the selection? I can't see all of you, so please feel free to just unmute and chime in.
All right, I'll read.
Thank you, Carol.
When God asks Adam, Ayeka, where are you? God is also asking, who are you? Are you ready for your mission? Adam replied, I heard you in the garden. I was afraid because I am naked and hid myself. Makes clear that Adam is not ready. He is hiding his truth. The human being tries to hide their core essence and therefore cannot stay in the divine garden of truth.
All right, so let's, I'm going to copy this and I will copy it into the chat. So yeah, I thought that was very powerful. What is, and this is from Rabbis Michelle Pearlman and Sharon Mars in the Mussar Torah Commentary. So what are Rabbis Pearlman and Mars? What is the point they're making in this interpretation?
Well, naked is metaphoric because to see the naked soul, or not, it's not about the naked body. It's about the naked soul. And do I dare show my naked soul to you? Now, this is a safe space right here. You've probably seen some of my naked soul, but it's still scary, even in a safe place.
Yeah.
And the garden may be a safe place for Adam, but he's not ready to be seen, for God to see his naked soul.
Yeah. Thank you, Carol. Shelley.
It's kind of like being full transparency. One of the hardest things I think all of us do, because we judge ourselves so much. And, part of that judgment is there's that little bit of shame. So we shame ourselves a little bit. And so, you know, we don't do self-compassion to ourselves, we do self-compassion to other people. And so, you know, it's allowing yourself, like you said, Janet, about being in a sacred space. We are in a sacred space right now. There is no judgment here. So we can speak our truths. We can cry if we need to cry because we're releasing something. And so, you know, that's Adam was therefore in that space of a bit of fear, right? And, you know, fear can be a motivator or fear can be something that stops you in your tracks. Thank you.
Yeah. And so often this passage is about like the physical nakedness and the clothes and, you know, the knowledge. But I really love, as you're both suggesting, that this is really going to a much deeper psychological, psychospiritual level of sort of being, you know, being with who we are. I'm going to copy the, rather than put it up, I'm just going to pop it into the chat. You know, the second part of what they wrote, in our own lives, we hide our authentic selves from the truth of our lives. When we live out of balance, despite the fact that we may be falling apart on the inside or on the outside, oops, sorry, I didn't share it, we betray our lives. So again, this is, again, from the same two rabbis. So I'll paste their names as well, but what are they talking about? Do you agree?
One word that kind of comes to my mind a little bit is the Hebrew word shalem, which means wholeness, and similar to the Hebrew word shalom for wellness, peace, and it's a very broad peace in every aspect of your life is what it's kind of making a thing of me, that you don't have that shalem, you don't have that wholeness when you're struggling to be in balance or not, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Shalem, wholeness, that's sort of part of the goal. It's coming to that middle place, to being accept all parts of ourselves. And and Adam was not willing to accept that part of himself. He wasn't willing to sort of live in that space of wholeness. He allowed the fear to overcome him. And they argue actually that was the reason for the exile from Eden. It wasn't actually from eating the fruit. It was the lack of accountability, this inability to kind of live with the truth and to deal with it. Let's see, we've gotten a few comments here. Yes, someone commented, fear of vulnerability. Yeah, these are a few older things. Well, let's take this a step further now. So let's put this text in conversation with some writings from Rabbi Shefa Gold. Could someone else unmute and read this next section? Bonnie, we haven't heard from you in a little while. Would you like to read?
I'll read. The
Thank you.
spiritual challenge of this beginning time is to know that we are utterly naked and vulnerable. Yet rather than hide, we are challenged to stand in our nakedness, to open to the power that moves through us.
Okay, great. Let's pause there. So what is Rabbi Gold? How is she framing this? And this again is from the same story. of Adam and his nakedness. Yes, Bonnie.
So what I was thinking is when you see somebody that you know and you're really feeling rotten, whether it's physical or emotional. Physical, somebody can often see, but emotional, not so often. And they say, how are you? And you say, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Then you're not. And you're not. And the question I know I have is, do I want to reveal that? So that to me was what that piece was about.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a good question to ask, because maybe I do and maybe I don't want to reveal that, depending on who is there. And, yeah. And I think Rabbi Gold is sort of, she wrote, what is she saying? Rather than hide, we are challenged to stand in our nakedness, to open to the power that moves through us. So what is she talking about?
I think being willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah, being willing to be vulnerable. And it can be scary. But Brene Brown, I don't know if any of you ever read Brene Brown, she's written a lot about the power of vulnerability. And without being vulnerable, we can't really connect to other people. So it's...
Sorry, Jake.
Hey, go ahead, Carol.
The word here is challenge. And when you're challenged with something, that usually means it's going to be hard. It's going to be frightening, maybe. And you need to have courage. So there's something in here, I'm not quite getting hold of it. Something in here about courage, too. About having the courage to reveal yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's not saying, oh, this is easy peasy, It's like this is absolutely a challenge. Karen, I see your hand.
So to move with the power within us makes me think about manifesting one's destiny. But in order to do that, you either need to know more about yourself, what you're feeling, what you maybe want to accomplish, why you want to do things, or you might need somebody to help you figure out the why for waking up every morning. And then we don't just stand there as upstanders, bystanders, viewers. We're able to move through whatever the power, or you used a word earlier, the light within us. We're able to use that and emanate.
That's beautiful, Karen, and that's a great segue to the next part of the reading. But I think Wendy may have wanted to make a comment, and then we'll move on to
briefly.
that.
It feels for me like to have the courage to speak your truth in that moment, and not be attached to the response you get. That would be the challenge, and or the body and the mind and the soul's way of telling yourself that you're okay to be vulnerable. Thank you.
Yeah, you're okay to be vulnerable. Karen, would you read the second bullet here? Because I think it really relates to what you were saying.
You said the second bullet, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm reading from my phone, so it's May take me
Oh,
a second or so, but that's fine.
okay.
Another challenge lies in becoming co-creators with the divine, knowing that the world is being recreated in every moment, and knowing that I am created in the divine image. I am challenged to open myself to the flow of goodness and let that flow be expressed through the workings and play of my life. Then I can begin to know myself as a partner with the divine in the work of creation. Rabbi Shefa Gold, Torah Journeys.
Thank you. Okay, so I will pop this one in the chat as well. Okay, so Rabbi Gold is, adding to her prior teaching, and you can look at this literally, you can look at this as a metaphor. But what do you make of her second point?
I love the fact that Rabbi Gold uses the word partner.
Hmm.
That for me, being in partnership with the divine, with God, is something I think is very exciting. It's also scary.
Yeah.
Which goes back to my comment on being willing to be vulnerable.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because you think about like Adam and where Adam was, what was Adam trying to hide from God? God knew the story. God knew exactly where Adam was, but God asked Adam to find out if Adam knew where Adam was. And he wasn't ready to take that on. And again, we may have different thoughts about the divinity, but the central point remains, I think, the power of sort of knowing who we are and seeing perhaps the opportunities in front of us and the choices in front of us, to go back to Christo's phrase about wholeness, are we going through life from a place of wholeness, in a place of gratitude, in a place of, partnering with the good in the world, trying to build more good in the world. That's, God, I wish I was in that space more often. It's hard to be there. But it's when I am in that space, boy, it feels, I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's get it on. Karen.
So I'm thinking about vulnerability in opposition to ego. And that when we know something about ourselves and we can be comfortable with who we are, then we feel less vulnerable in the way we respond. And that goes to my thinking, which I have shared. It's really difficult to be used or hurt by other people because there's a choice there that we can let other people, we can appear to say that that other people are stepping on us, let's say, but they're not able to do it unless we're sure of who we are and we can stop that. So somehow that fits in here for me between vulnerability and knowing who we are and how we manage the fear of not wanting to drop our armor.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen. I'm listening with an open heart. Thank you for sharing your experience and perspective. And now we come to the time where we are going to separate out into breakout rooms where there are no cameras and there's just 2 or 3 people. And the question that we're going to discuss with our partner or partners today is one of a couple of things. Are there times when you feel naked and are afraid to be your authentic self? Or you might want to say, how might your life change, sorry, if you claim the role of co-creator more often. And of course, you may check in with where you are as well. We won't have as much time as we sometimes do, but we'll at least have a good 6 minutes, I would say. And I will send you a message when it is time. So the rooms are open. You should see something on your screen inviting you to join a breakout room. Mike, would you like to join as well? I put you in and you did. Okay, very good. Well, if you are streaming, this is where, okay, I'm gonna stop the recording. We'll start again.
Is it possible in the future to put the questions up so we can all see them while we're in the breakout sessions?
Sure, I thought I put them, did I put them in the chat? I put them in the chat. Was that accessible in the breakout room?
I don't know. I didn't think to look there.
Oh, okay.
We figured them out, actually.
Okay.
Frank figured them out because he wrote them down.
Okay.
Well,
Good job,
that's
Frank.
always helpful.
Thank you, Frank.
Yes. So how was that experience of sharing in the breakout rooms? Okay, bye, Stephanie. How was the experience in the breakout rooms, and do you have any insights that you would care to share? Joanne, I saw you unmute. I didn't know if that meant you wanted to share, if you just happened to have unmuted. Oh.
Probably because I just put a note that I have to run in a minute. But I mean, you know, I was discussing, you know, we're discussing like the idea of being in a partnership and what can like sort of connect you to that. And I guess for me, it's like prayer and meditation, but also being in nature and trying to feel oneness of myself and everything, which, you know, is another way of looking at God.
Yeah. Thank you, Joanne. I'll have a good board meeting.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Thanks so much.
Karen.
I was Joanne's partner, and my co-creator is really a concept of God. When I need to draw strength, I don't ask for God to fix things. I don't see God as a he or she or anything else. I see God as God. And so I ask for strength. Sometimes I ask for courage. Just the idea of being able to do that allows me to find it within myself. So my partner is a concept that I wrestle with and I'm grateful for.
Thank you, Karen. I was thinking a little bit, like, what would it mean, you know, in some of the more mundane activities of life if I tried to sort of call upon the partnership and I'm, you know, the old standby of waiting in line at the grocery store or changing the kitty litter, you know, can these things be elevated to, you know, from a mundane to a, wow, this is, you know, creating a healthier, safer, more pleasant, you know, life for the cats, you know, to do this work. Is to be the, oh my God, again, you guys eat so much and, you know, it's all this work to clean this up. So that's sort of what I was thinking about a little bit. Anyone else care to comment?
Well, for us, the theme of being heard came up. Both the fear of being heard and being seen, as well as the desire to. It's kind of a double-edged thing.
Yeah, I totally can relate to that, Carol. It reminds me, my book came out in 2016, and I remember before it came out, I was equally afraid of it being a huge success and it being a total flop and nobody reading it, and of course the reality was neither one, but it's, so I hear you, absolutely. Yeah, Karen.
Also, please, thank you, and a smile for me. Elevate the ordinary. And it doesn't matter if somebody wants to return that or not, because that's what makes me feel good. So, and I think that I'm doing it for the right reason. And I also tend to walk around every day, not consciously thinking of this, but it's in the back of my mind that somewhere somebody's having a worse day than I am. That in my life, I'm sort of always in the middle somewhere, closer to one end some days. But so I elevate my day by just remembering, please, thank you, and smile. It's really easy. It doesn't take a lot of effort, especially on the tough days.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful, Karen. And that reminds me, I think that's sort of what, maybe what Rabbi Gold was talking about when, channeling the goodness and allowing the goodness that's already there just to come through and to express itself, as you were saying, with a please or thank you or smile. Let's take a quick peek at our mantra and practices for the week. So I will once again share these in the chat. But this is a new one I wrote. The mantra is claiming myself with confidence. And, as we have been talking about, everything we've talked about this week, I think it really is, about, claiming who I am. I can declare myself whole, even with my own faults, and even with my own growth opportunities, to use the corporate jargon. And then for a practice, as you go about your day, open yourself to the goodness you're receiving, and act as a co-creator, which I think Karen's example so beautifully illustrated, that we can mindfully smile and ask people how they are and create a better day for them. And, look for opportunities to pass them on. So I will put these in the chat. I'll stop the share and we'll do just a very quick closing meditation. So please, once again, close your eyes. And focus for just a moment on the light that's coming through your eyelids. This is the light of your divine spark. Feel that goodness, warmth, acceptance of who you are just as you are. And also feel that invitation. That invitation for co-creation. It's okay to occupy a bit more space, to let your presence be felt by the world. And an invitation to occupy less space. You'll still be okay. And creating an opportunity for someone else to step forward a little bit more. And tilt your head back and open your mouth and smile. Let's take a moment of gratitude to all of those beautiful souls who've come together to share our journey this day. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining us this week. I am excited to be restarting this next phase with you. We will be here again next week at the same time for our second week of humility. And until then, I wish you well.